I'm about to talk about a subject that's a little bit sensitive to some people, and that is people not leaving their partners due to finance. Now, I know you've heard this before, but I'm going to give you a couple of scenarios that people hardly ever talk about and is hardly ever disputed. Let's say you're involved with someone who is still legally attached to someone else. They could be divorced and there could be alimony involved. They could be legally separated and that person is sharing a retirement or a disability with them for those few extra dollars a month. And you've been involved with this person, but you know in the back of your mind, this person has no intentions of severing those ties with the ex in order to move on with you. Let's say that you've been involved for a little while, let's say a year or two or three or five or whatever the case may be, but you're starting to lose patience. Well, the thing is that every time you bring up the situation, that person gets all riled up about, oh, well, I'm getting X amount of money a month and I need that, and that's the only reason why I can get it. If I get it, I'm cut off and I can't do anything else. First of all, that's a problem because if you want to depend on somebody else's money to live every single month, you either need to scale down your expenses or increase your own income so you won't have to depend on that person. Now, there are two instances where this is very common. Number one, it could be a situation where they have an alimony with the clause that alimony is paid every single month until the person remarries. Or it could be a situation where a person is receiving some kind of pension or retirement from the spouse's account, and that's why they don't want to get divorced. Either way, these situations can cause problems, but for some people, they might be okay with it. But if you have a person who's otherwise single who wants to have a life where they can spend with the rest of their life with this person, they have to understand that 9 times out of 10 they're not going to get that promise of matrimony. That person is not going to give up that money if they have that mindset. If they depend on that money every single month, that alimony or that pension every single month, they are not going to sever ties from their former spouse. They're not going to do it. That is if they depend on the income. That's the key phrase. I'm going to tell you a story, a case in point. Once upon a time, when I was a long time ago, my grandmother knew a lady who was a good friend of hers. And this particular lady had a husband and they divorced. And in the divorce, there was a house and there was alimony to be paid every single month. Of course, the alimony clause was that the alimony would be paid every single month, providing that she remains single, because once she gets married again, then the alimony payments will be cut. So what happened in this case is that with the house was ordered to be sold and the proceeds divided between the two of them. Now, I don't know what the whole story is that happened with that as to why the house wasn't sold or anything like that. But the bottom line is that they both wound up staying in the house because nobody wanted to move. And he stays in one part of the house, she stays in the other part of the house. That's automatically a blocker for anybody single involved anyway, because they're going to see that the person that they're in love with is still living with their ex. That's not going to work. It's not going to work if you're looking to have a future with them. But also the alimony situation was another reason why the lady, why either one of them didn't want to get seriously involved with anybody. And they came across some good people here and there that wanted to get involved. But at the end of the day, they both wound up alone before they died. They weren't married to each other. They weren't involved with each other, and they both wound up dying alone, in a sense, because, one died and then another one died later on. So they didn't have that romantic happiness. That was because they both depended on that income. Now, here's another scenario, which is a good scenario. Let's say you have a lady that divorces the husband and he has to pay alimony or provide pension or whatever the case may be until she gets married again. She was maybe entitled to half his pension if he was retired or whatever the case may be. Well, she already had income of her own. She was able to take care of herself and take care of her monthly expenses on her own. So all the extra money that came in every single month from the court settlement actually went into a business that she was building, or went into additional retirement for her. So she wasn't dependent on that money. So the mindset in her case was much different. She was open to the possibility of getting remarried again because she was still quite young. She was under 50 when all of this happened, and she decided that she wanted to marry again. So within just less than a few years after the divorce, she met a gentleman who was crazy over her, and they got engaged and decided to get married. And one day while they were making the plans, she just came out of the blue and she asked him, she said, "Honey," she said, "do you think it's going to be a problem for us financially once we got married? Have you thought about the fact that I'm going to be giving up this money?" Not to mention that money was at least, I would say, it was four figures at least a month that she would miss. And her husband very politely looked at her and he said, "Look," he said, "what's those few dollars if I could have you?" See, he was working a good job himself for a small company, and he had money set aside as well. He said, "I take care of myself with my income. You take care of yourself with your income." And he said, if anything, he said, "we'll be saving money being together anyway." So he said, really, what we're spending right now, we're only going to be spending half of it because we'll be together. So who needs that extra money? See what I'm saying, people? You've got to look further into the future when it comes to your finances. And also, you got to understand, sometimes we are put to the test when it comes to certain things to see whether or not we're entitled to a blessing later on. So this couple turned around and got married, and a couple of years later, the company that the husband was working for was suffering on they were having financial problems. And like I said, it was a small company with less than 25 employees. Well, he had bought shares into the company a few years before he even met his wife. And by that time, he had saved up quite a nest egg. The financial problems were so rough, they were on the verge of bankruptcy. The owner comes to him and a couple of the other employees and says, "Look, the only way that we'd be able to have any way of saving this company is that we need for you to buy us out." And they said, "Okay, we'll buy you out all right, but we're going to run everything and we're going to have our own management so this won't happen again." So basically, they were looking for a way out. He winds up buying into the company with just two other people. So now he is a part CEO of a company that he worked for 3 years before. Their income has tripled from when they met. And he told his wife one day, he was taking her on a celebratory date, and he said, "You know what, honey, I think back on something." He said, "What if we didn't get married just because of that alimony?" He said, "You see how small that alimony is compared to what I'm bringing home now?" He said, "Do you think I would have been blessed with this opportunity if we hadn't got married and hadn't gotten together?" She just sat there and smiled. So the moral to this thing is, people, don't let money play such a high role in all aspects of your life. Don't give it so much power. If you have a quick money mindset, that's exactly what you're going to get. You're going to get quick money. You're going to get it quick and you're going to lose it quick. People with quick money mindsets don't ever have long-term goals. They get the quick money and they lose it just as fast. But people who want to hold on to money, who have long-term plans for money, their money lasts longer because that's the type of energy that they give it. They put their priorities straight. They don't depend on every extra dime that comes in. And they certainly don't depend on anybody else to take care of them. Because indirectly, if you do have that extra money coming in from a spouse or a former spouse, and you're using that to take care of your basic needs, you might as well get back together. Because they're still taking care of you indirectly. and you're not legally single, even though the gavel went down, you're still not legally single. If you're still depending on that money from that extra person, I don't care how divorced they say you are, but if you're still depending on that money is a stronghold to prevent you from moving on with your life and getting involved with somebody else. So if you're in one of those situations where you depend on that income, make a way where you don't have to. Make a way where you don't have to depend on that money. Create a business. Stash away as much of it as you can. Invest it, whatever the case may be. First of all, find yourself a way where you could take your source of income, the little bit of money that you're making, and then build it up. Build it up. If you are working a part-time job and getting extra income, get a full-time one. Let your blood, sweat, and tears take care of your digs so where you see if you got your venture that is bringing in more money than that check is going to be less and less significant and less important. But there is no way that you're going to see happiness with anybody else as long as you got connections with this other person. And as I stated before, if that money is coming in and your partner doesn't have a problem with it, that's fine. I'm just saying in these two particular situations, where if you want to get married to this person and they refuse to get married because they're holding on to the little bit of money that's coming in every month, you might as well just move on, because it's never going to be let go. And they don't have the vision to see that they will be able to get that money if they lived with you, because the two of you would be living together, and the money that you're spending apart, you would only spend half of it if you were together, but that person doesn't have sense enough to see that. They just see it as missing money. They don't see about money that's potentially earned. And you can't change that mindset in a person. So I just wanted to put that out there, because I know a lot of people don't talk about this. They're like, oh, well, me and so-and-so been together for 15 years, but we can't get married because, he's getting that pension from his wife's shipyard job, his wife's shipyard job. And if he turn around and he legally divorce her, he won't get that money every single month. He ain't getting nothing but $600 a month for that thing. You make it seem like millions. It ain't nothing but, that's only $150 a week. $20 a day. So you mean to tell me you're going to put your life on hold for somebody who's all hemmed up over $20 a day? $25 a day? I mean, come on. And you don't have a sense enough to realize you paying rent, mortgage, and car payment over to your house. He paying rent, mortgage, and car payment over to his house. And if the two of y'all got married and lived together, you would have, instead of two rent and mortgages, you would have only one. And that's the $600 right there. And also, if you had two different car payments, y'all would be able to split those. Or you could have a reduced insurance because you would combine your policies. Your car expenses will go down at some point. You're both paying two sets of utilities. You would only have one bill. But no, he or she wants to sit up there and say, I can't get married because I want to give up $20 a day. Well, you know what you need to do? You need to find somebody who's mathematically smarter, because you don't need them. Because if you do the math and you figure it out, if you turn around, you marry somebody else, that other person contributes way more than $600 a month. Especially if they're currently working or running the business. Their income is going to equal more than $600 a month. But you're going to hold off marrying them and living with them for less than what they can contribute. Okay, go with that. Yeah, you need to be by yourself because you don't have much mentally to bring to the table. I'm just saying. It's simple math. People can see it. So it's like, okay. So I just wanted to put that out there because I just have a feeling that a lot of people are having these conversations now, especially with the current world situation and the economics. But don't fall for the okie doke on that. That person saying that they can't marry you over that little bit of money, and 9 times out of 10, most people who do that, is not a whole lot of money involved. They haven't done all the math and seen what you bring to the table. Because more than likely, you bringing more than $20 a day to the table, including your job or any other income. You bringing home more than $20 a day. That person's going to have to come up with a better excuse. So you got to sit down and think about these things, whether or not you want this person in your life. And if that's the excuse that they're giving, you need to ask them what the real excuse is. Because that's probably just a smoke screen for the truth. Just saying.